Could I ask people to take their seats? Come forward and take your seats. Well, good morning and welcome. I'm really pleased to see such a healthy turnout, especially given that we're getting together at 8 a.m. the morning after the Patriots played the Sunday night football game. And I'm quite confident that this event will be more successful than the Patriots were last night. My name is Tom Birmingham. I'm the Senior Fellow in Education at Pioneer Institute. This morning's event is entitled The Life You Saved, Catholic Schooling and the Liberal Arts. Before I say more about our program, I'd like to begin by thanking our co-sponsors, the Program in Education, Policy, and Governance at Harvard's Kennedy School, the Catholic Schools Foundation, Ed Choice, the American Principles Project, and the Center for Education Reform. To the co-sponsors, thank you very, very much. I suppose, like most people, my interest in our topic comes through my family and religious upbringing. I grew up in Chelsea, which is very much a working-class city, and my education was shaped by 9 years in the Chelsea Public Schools and high school at Austin Prep, an Augustinian Catholic high school located in the suburbs. St. Augustine himself believed that students should be well educated in a wide variety of subjects. In this tradition, Austin Prep initiated a full immersion in the liberal arts with a special emphasis on the study of Latin and history. St. Augustine's dictum from his Confessions, Tolle Lege, take up and read, was Austin's school motto. In read, we did, from Dante to Shakespeare, right up to Flannery O'Connor. We learned that books matter and great books matter most because the great ones last. Chelsea, my hometown, is unlike most neighborhoods in the Boston area, which had been traditionally and monolithically defined by ethnicity. For example, South Boston Irish, East Boston Italian, Roxbury African American. In contrast, Chelsea has always been as ethnically and religiously diverse as the country itself. Growing up, the neighborhoods around virtually every public school usually had both a church and a synagogue or shul close nearby. The variety of religious denominations in Chelsea encouraged tolerance. In the Chelsea of my youth, the religious and the secular mixed, even in the public schools. For instance, every Wednesday in the middle of the school day, our public school teachers marched us down the street to the nearest Catholic school for 2 hours of religious instruction. It was a different time, though well after the clear establishment of the separation of church and state. I suspect, however, some of you may have had comparable experiences. Over the last century or more, it would be difficult to understand Massachusetts without appreciating the central role that Catholic education has played in the historical, political, economic, and cultural landscape of the state. What really sparked Catholic education in Boston was the long-standing requirement that the King James Bible be taught in the public schools. Whatever its literary merit, King James remains a Protestant text. Of course, going back to the early to mid-19th century, Massachusetts Catholics dealt with infamous bigotry and intolerance, which finds its worst expression in two know-nothing style anti-aid amendments to the Massachusetts Constitution that blocked public dollars from going to private and religious school families. Given our desire to do as much as we can, especially for poor urban kids, so that they can fully participate in the American dream, we need to put all the school choice options on the table and share them with our students. Charter schools, voc tech schools, Metco, private, and yes, parochial schools. After all, this is what the privileged do every year for their children. Why shouldn't everyone have access to this type of academic choice? Pioneer is deeply committed to public education, to public school reform, driven by the 1993 education reform, which I would have to either, depending on your perspective, admit or boast, I am the co-author of. The law has established Massachusetts as a national and international leader in K-12 public education. Under ed reform, Massachusetts students have achieved stellar results, leading the nation on every grade tested in reading and math from 2005 to 2013 on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the so-called Nation's Report Card. In 2007 and 2013, Massachusetts students were among the top performers in the world on international math and science tests. As well as Massachusetts public schools have done, the Archdiocese of Boston schools scored even higher on the SAT and other nationwide achievement tests. The question is why? What are the sources of success for Catholic schools in Massachusetts and across the country? Well, it's true that the Massachusetts Catholic schools adopted the state's nation-leading, liberal arts-centric public school standards in English and math. But that's not the whole story. In this age of relentless news about street gangs, opioid addiction, and school dropouts, Catholic schools strive to imbue their students with a liberal arts, character, and moral education with a commitment to the Catholic faith. Catholic education has endured for centuries because it's grounded in ideals, the true, the good, and the beautiful that speak to the human soul. And these matter in the education of young people, since education is an inescapably moral endeavor for passing along knowledge, wisdom, and history to future generations. It is self-evident that it would be difficult to understand the history of Western civilization, its cultural inheritance, art, poetry, or literature, without understanding the role Catholicism has played. What is Western culture without France's Gothic cathedrals, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, Dante's Divine Comedy, Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, and even Gaudi's whimsical Barcelona Cathedral, La Sagrada Familia? Interestingly, if we were to aggregate all the Massachusetts Catholic schools, that would constitute the largest school district in the state. With 67,000 students, total statewide Catholic school enrollment is comfortably larger than the 50,000 students enrolled in the Boston public schools. While this may sound impressive, nationally, Catholic education is experiencing trying times. According to a Fordham Institute report, about 5.2 million Americans attended Catholic school in 1965. Today, the number is closer to 2 million. This demographic phenomenon is naturally having an impact on Catholic schooling in Massachusetts. In 1942, Boston alone was home to 225 parish, grammar, and high schools. Today, there are about 124 schools in the entire Archdiocese of Boston. Manifesting this trend, just this past August, Boston's only Catholic high school for girls, Elizabeth Seton Academy, announced it is closing. Meanwhile, St. Joseph Central High School in Pittsfield, the only Catholic high school in all of Berkshire County, will close at the end of the current academic year. Catholic education's long-term sustainability is far from guaranteed. I feel fortunate that my own education in life was shaped by value-based instruction at Austin Prep. For me, it is personally important that Catholic education continue at the K-12 level and survive into yet another century. Now, however, it is my pleasure to present for introductory remarks Father George W. Rutler. Father Rutler is the pastor of the Church of St. Michael in New York City. He is the author of 21 books. Most recently, he wrote He Spoke to Us. Since 1988, his weekly television program has been broadcast worldwide on EWTN. He's a Knight Commander of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre and chaplain of the St. Andrew's Society of the State of New York and the West Point Society of New York. Father Rutler graduated from Dartmouth College and took advanced degrees at the Johns Hopkins University and the General Theological Seminary. He holds several degrees from the Gregorian and Angelicum Universities in Rome, including the Pontifical Doctorate at the Sacred Theology. The University of Oxford has awarded him a degree, Master of Studies. The recipient of several honorary degrees, Father Rutler is on the board of 2 colleges as well as the Wethersfield Institute. Without more, I present you with Father Rutler.